This is going to be about the properties of trapezoids and kites. Let's take a look at what a trapezoid is. It's a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. Okay? When you label a trapezoid or any of the parallelograms or quadrilaterals, you need to start in one corner and you need to go counterclockwise as you go around labeling A, B, C, and D. Okay? And we have line AB is parallel to line CD to make our trapezoid. Okay? The parallel sides are called the bases. So AB and CD are the bases. The non-parallel sides are called legs. So AC and BD are the legs. For an isosceles trapezoid, the legs, the non-parallel sides, are congruent, which means that they are the same. So AC is equal to BD. Okay? For isosceles trapezoid base angles theorem, what this says is each pair of base angles is congruent. Okay, so angle B is the same as angle C, and angle A is equal to angle D. Okay, for isosceles trapezoid base angles, conversion, if a trapezoid has one pair of congruent base angles, then the trapezoid is an isosceles trapezoid. That means that the legs are equal to each other. So if angle A is equal to angle D, and they're your base angles, then AB is also equal to DC. Isosceles trapezoid diagonals theorem. A trapezoid is isosceles if and only if its diagonals are congruent. So if AB is equal to DC, which are your legs, this is true if and only if the diagonals AC are equal to BD. All right, let's take a look and see if we can do some solving. So we're going to find the measures of angle 1, 2, and 3, assuming that this figure is an isosceles trapezoid. Okay, so in an isosceles trapezoid, base angles are congruent. Angle 1 is equal to what? That is correct. It is equal to 75. Okay, the base angles are parallel, so angle 3 is equal to what? Remember that consecutive angles in an isosceles trapezoid equal 180. So we would have 180 minus 75 to give us what? That's correct. It would equal 105 degrees, which means that since base angles are equal, angle 2 is equal to what? That's correct. It's equal to 105. All right, the mid-segment of a triangle connects the midpoints to two sides. See that? Notice that the mid-segment is parallel to the third side and half its length, and it cuts the other two sides in half. So for trapezoid mid-segment, we're going to connect the midpoint of the legs. Okay, that is our mid-segment. And here we can figure it out, okay? Because AB is parallel to EF and DC is also parallel to EF, then we can set this up as EF is equal to 1/2 your length of your bases AB plus DC, okay? Notice how they cut AD and BC in half. So the midsegment of a trapezoid is parallel to each base and its length is 1/2 the sum of the bases. It is the average of the two bases. So if we have a value of 24 for AB and we have a value of 30 for DC, we're going to find EF. All we're going to have to do is plug 24 plus 30, add them together for 54, and this gives us 27. Okay? We're going to try this. AB is equal to 10 and EF is equal to 15. So this is a little different spin on it, right? We don't know what DC is this time. So now we say that EF is equal to 1/2 AB plus CD. Notice that we have 15 is equal to 1/2 of 10 plus the CD length. So they multiplied both sides by 2 to get rid of the 1/2. So 30 is equal to 10. So CD is equal to 20. However, there is an easier way to find this, okay? The average is right in the middle of two numbers, so think. If 10 then goes to 15, 15 goes to what number? That's right, notice you to go from 10 to 15, you're going to add 5, so that means we add 5, so we get 20. So this is an easier way to find your sides. Okay, so a trapezoid has two parallel sides. A trapezoid is not a parallelogram. The legs of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent, and the base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. The midsegment of a trapezoid is 1/2 the sum of two bases. Let's take a look at our figure of kites. A kite is a quadrilateral with two pairs of congruent sides, but opposite sides are not congruent. They're not parallel either, okay? These are congruent consecutive sides, and these are congruent consecutive sides, and that's what makes a kite. There are no parallel sides in a kite. Kite properties. The diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. This is very important. One pair of opposite angles is congruent. Please notice that it is with the short diagonal. Okay? GHJK is a kite. We're going to find GH. Okay? So remember that these are perpendicular lines, so we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So 5 squared plus 2 squared is going to give us what value? That's right, it's going to give us 29. So then all we do is have to take the square root of 29, and then we know what GK is and GH is because they're going to be the same because consecutive uh, segments are the same. Now let's take a look at this figure and see if we can solve for angles R, S, and T. Okay, so we're first going to ask you what is the angle for S. So remember your kite properties. That's right, it's going to be 25 because those two angles are congruent. S and U are congruent. Now remember that the sum of the angles in a quadrilateral is 360. So we can take our x plus 30 plus 125 plus another x plus another 125. We can sum all our numbers together and our x's together, so we get 2x plus 280 equals 360. 2x equals 80, so our value for x is equal to, that's right, it's equal to 40. So that means that our T angle is 40 and our R angle is 70. True or false? In ABCD diagonals, AC and BD are perpendicular. ABCD is a kite. True or false? This is actually false, and the reason why is because the diagonals of a rhombus are also perpendicular, and you would need more information to figure out if you're looking at a rhombus or are you looking at a kite. Let's take a look at this figure here, quadrilaterals. Each shape has all the properties of all the shapes above it. Okay, and this is actually pretty handy to remember. The notes that you took on Thursday show this as well. Here's the question. Which of these have at least one pair of congruent sides? That's right. We're looking at all of these have, except for the trapezoid, all of these have at least one pair of congruent sides. Okay, which of these have at least one pair of congruent angles? Yes, again, all of these figures have one pair of congruent angles except for the trapezoid and the quadrilateral itself. Which of these have two pairs of congruent angles? That's right. The only ones that have two pairs of congruent angles are the parallelogram, your rhombus, your rectangle, your square, and your isosceles trapezoid. This time the kite and the trapezoid are left out. In which of those figures are diagonals perpendicular? Now think about that. So the only figures in which the diagonals are perpendicular are the rhombus, the square, and the kite. Okay? In which of these is the sum of the angles 360 degrees? Okay? 360 degrees is everybody because that's what defines a quadrilateral. Four sides and the interior angles are 360. What is this? What we know is the diagonals bisect each other and the diagonals are congruent. So what figure is this? This must be a rectangle. What is this? What we know. The diagonals bisect each other, the diagonals are congruent, and the diagonals are perpendicular. This figure must be a square. What is this? What we know. One pair of opposite sides is parallel, base angles are congruent, so this must be yes, an isosceles trapezoid. What is this? What we know. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent, and that's all. So this must be that's right, a parallelogram. Thank you for your participation. The end.